All right. Welcome back to Day to Day with Greg Michelson. I'm here with my friend Adam Davis. We actually haven't known each other very long. We met off Podstars, right?
Yeah, through Rebecca, I think, introduced us.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Um,
glad she did. It should be a good
yeah.
conversation today. Why don't you give everybody sort of a background on you and what makes you tick?
Okay, that's interesting. I I like to talk about content. I like ingesting content. I like producing content. I'm subscribed to over 100 YouTube channels. I read books all the time, listen to podcasts, all that kind of stuff. And I've been in content marketing for about 12 years. So I just like creating stuff that, really resonates with people, really makes people feel something. And lately, I've just been absolutely obsessed with AI like the rest of the world. I had the fortunate circumstance of being unemployed last year, so I could really dive in 8, 9 hours a day. Um, and it really made a difference. So, yeah, it's all I talk about these days, basically.
Okay. Wow. So what did you learn over those 8, 9 months? Or
I,
the time you said eight, nine
yeah,
hours over the
yeah.
period where
I
you
mean,
were
it
getting to
was
really deep dive.
Yeah, it was probably about 8 or 9 months.
Oh,
Well,
no kidding.
I made that switch from, my CEO telling me you have to use AI like every other CEO in the world to really understanding how it's helpful, why it's helpful, how to build automated systems that really work for any sort of use cases. Doesn't have to just be marketing or content or things like that. And just kind of opening myself up to this learning and wanting to be ahead of the curve all the time. Everyone's trying to adopt new tools and coming out with new tools. And I love being that guy who's like, yeah, I tried this already. It's not what you need, or here's a cheaper solution or a more efficient solution. I just love to learn stuff like that and figure out solutions. So it's been a crazy journey of finding new stuff and not getting bogged down or overwhelmed, or sometimes getting overwhelmed and trying to figure out the best way around it. So yeah, it's been fun.
Now, my view sort of is that large language models have kind of turned content marketing on their head a little bit.
Yeah, I think specifically with content, a lot of people are selling fear, that content writers or social media managers or things like that are going to be the first ones to go in this robot revolution that we're all facing. And I keep telling people that I'm specifically not doing that. I want to shift. I want content writers to become content managers. I want social media managers to be social media planners and community managers, and still having that engagement and that human aspect of it. But a lot of the busy work, coming up with a content calendar or looking for keywords for blog posts or finding holes in what our competitors are doing that would be a really good idea for us to create a white paper on, or a YouTube video or things like that, that is where AI saves a lot of time. Um, and it's not like replacing the work that we were doing, it's just giving us some of our time back to really focus on making content that really does sound human and that really resonates with people.
Well, I'm actually interested. So maybe we have people listening that aren't content marketers. If you're a content marketer 5 years ago, what are the three things that are like the top of mind, most important things that you focus on? And how are the three things that are most important different today?
I think I'd probably say the number one thing is SEO. Hopefully you work at a company, or you worked at a company 5 years ago that had a good marriage between the content team and the SEO team, or you were in charge of that, or it just made sense because everybody wanted to be that number one ranking on Google. You wanted to have the proper keywords, you wanted to be ranking, you wanted your content to really be out there. I think that kind of ties into branding a little bit, which is probably number two on my list of having a specific brand message, a brand identity, and having a uniformity to that message that it's shown across everywhere, and really nailing different social media channels and how their content should be differentiated for each of those. Um, that's what I would say is like the top three things that I was focusing on 5 years ago. Um, it's actually 5 years ago is when I made my shift from B2B to B2C, which is a really interesting differentiation in content. Because even though in the end of the day, you're talking to people, selling someone from you being point A to point B, being the person who buys it from you, is a very different way of speaking to customers. Um, so yeah, that's what I would say my list is. And those things haven't really changed. They've just kind of
Really?
shifted.
Okay. How so?
Well, with SEO specifically, the one thing that AI and LLMs is really pointing out is how much of the internet is built for SEO. Like when you go and search a topic or you look for something, you're not getting the best information. You're getting the best SEO optimized links, um, which is why you see a lot of this data now from LLMs taking stuff from Reddit and taking stuff from best practices and articles and people, as opposed to just Google, right? So you want what boots on the ground people are actually saying and doing, and it doesn't matter what you're searching, whether it's marketing or sales or R&D, anything that you're searching for. The internet until now has been like, well, if we're the best at keywords, then people will read our content, even if it's not the best. And now
Right.
those companies are getting penalized for not having, quote unquote, the best content. So a lot of people also now are saying that SEO is dead because of this whole process, which is, again, not true. It's just shifted because you have to just kind of focus on a different angle, or
Yeah.
add in, I'd say, a different angle than you were beforehand. Um, and branding is more important than ever, because when everything kind of seems the same or very robotic or very cut and dry AI content, you want to be the brand that stands out. You want to feel unique. You want to feel human. You want to feel different. Um, and doing that in a way that really makes sense in how you market your company is the way that you're going to succeed with this whole AI adoption, which is where social media really comes in. Social media is not going anywhere. The way people use it is obviously shifting. You shouldn't post the same things on LinkedIn that you're posting on YouTube or Twitter. Those are completely different places. Like Twitter, people are gravitating a lot to Grok as their go-to LLM these days because it's focused on pop culture, it's focused on news, it's focused on the latest updates, even though it's not going to give you the sophisticated background answers as maybe Gemini or Claude, but it's real time. So the conversations you're having on Twitter about your brand or about your business or your product should reflect that, as opposed to LinkedIn, which is a whole different vibe. So yeah, like I said, those three things are still top of my list for content, but I'm looking at them from a different angle.
Gotcha. And what about actually producing content? A lot of the content out there, one of the things I've seen is that content writers are now deliberately making themselves sound less formal and more sort of maybe extemporaneous, or more kind of like dopey, or like a college student,
Right.
so that people don't think that it's large language model generated content.
Yeah, I see.
I've got one person in my network that she writes, she's like constantly gnashing her teeth because she writes with M dashes. Like that's like
Same.
her thing. She always has. I've always used them too. But now anytime anybody sees an M dash, they're like, oh, that's written by ChatGPT. You're a faker. You're a loser. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Have you
all
seen that?
these people are highlighting all these things. Like apparently you can't use the word clarity anymore because clarity is a big ChatGPT word. So that's also the same kind of thing. I use M dashes all the time. I think clarity is a great word. I mean, it's tough, and I think um, it's shifting content creation in going back to what I was saying earlier in the process for me that it's changing because people aren't. Well, let me change what I'm about. I was going to say people aren't dumb and they can see through AI content, but a lot
Yeah.
of, I mean, yes, it depends, but um, content
So I can see
creation,
you're an optimist.
right? Yeah, of course. I think I worked in e-commerce for 4 years and I managed a content team and I hired them from 1 person to 4 people. And we just had this engine that was just crazy. I mean, with e-commerce, there's nonstop content that you're creating. I'm sure anyone who signs up to a company's email list around Black Friday and Christmas, that you're just getting emails every single day. So we had to understand that pace and now translate it into what we've learned from that into this AI world. And I'm sticking with my whole theory and plan that the process is what you need to optimize. You shouldn't be having AI write subject lines for you. It should be figuring out what the best subject lines are that you've written in the past or that your competitors are writing that are resonating with customers. It's building out a content calendar or a blog post calendar for the next 6 months so you can free up time instead of brainstorming and ideating and things like that to focus on what you're actually creating. And yeah, even despite all that, I still use AI to create content, but I do it in more of like a foundational sense. Like write me a LinkedIn post or write me a blog post, and then I review it and tweak it or change it to my voice or change it to how I think makes more sense for what I want to talk about this week. Um, Not because I'm out of ideas, but because it can quickly look through what I've posted recently or what other people are posting or what will resonate with my ICP and things like that, instead of me having to do that research, and a 4-hour job becomes a half an hour job, you know?
Hmm. But it's interesting to me that the top thing on your list was search engine optimization. And a lot of that is like playing games with the content that you write in order to rank at the top of the list, and not so much writing the stuff that's really relevant and useful. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's kind of a perverse incentive. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's kind of like a subset of my belief that content is the most important team in any company. And yes, I'm biased, but I think you could have the most beautiful product or the most amazing website, but if it looks like it's written by a 4-year-old, nobody's going to engage, or no one's going to buy from you. And I think that applies in your brand messaging and how you look online and social media and your online reputation management and things like that. But if, this kind of 1A of that is, if people can't find you, then what's the point, right? So SEO is important to me because I've been on that other side. I've worked at companies where there was friction between my team and the SEO team, or there wasn't an SEO expert in-house, and we had to kind of tread water and figure things out on our own. And I think when you do have a proper plan for getting your name out there, getting your content seen by people, and getting your product understood and made aware to the masses, that's when you could say, like, okay, great, people are reading our content, let's now give them unbelievable content, or let's give them unbelievable content so that they can read it, so that they can read more of our content. It kind of like leapfrogs in that sense. Because I just don't want my content to not be seen, right? Which is something that I learned in a previous job, and it's such a classic mistake that so many marketing teams make, of just writing content based on a whim. Like, oh, there was something in the news, or we just have this new product update, let's write a blog post about it. Are people searching about that? Do people want to know about that? Is that resonating with our audience? And so for so many years, people would just create content for the sake of creating content, until we said, no, let's look at the data. Let's look at the SEO. Let's look at what the Google search numbers are showing, what are our keywords that we're trying to rank for. And so when you take all those factors in, SEO is kind of like a nice, concise way of explaining it. But I mean, I want people to see my content. That's to me number one.
Yeah, I hate it. It definitely seems to me like it's a game, and that authentic content is less important than searchable content, and that kind of drives me nuts.
I get it. I understand where you're coming from. I look at it not so much as a game, but more of it's keeping us on our toes. Like, take out everything you know about SEO and just look at content marketing and online reputation management. Like I said before, you want people to know about your brand. You want people to know what you have to say and what your product is and things like that. If you're just creating content based on what you think will work, you might hit the target, I don't know, 20% of the time, or, a broken clock is wrong twice a day kind of thing. But what I think is good about SEO is that it doesn't just let you like sit and wait. You create stuff for X amount of keywords, or for certain types of Google searches, or for trends in the market. And then you're like, okay, that's working. But now we need to look at it next month and be like, is that still working? Or the stuff we did 6 months ago, how's that working? Or do we need to optimize it? And it keeps your content fresh and authentic and interesting, especially for financial companies, or for companies that have a lot of compliance and risk issues, that you could, if you didn't have to worry about SEO, you would just put things up there that could be illegal now, or it could be breaking GDPR, or it could be breaking compliance issues in different markets. And you would just be like, well, the content was right and people are clicking on it, so then it's fine. But you're not optimizing, you're not changing, you're not refreshing. And so that's why I'm not an SEO person, but I like working with SEO people and people who really know what they're doing, to make sure that this kind of constant checking and refreshing happens.
And what about GEO? I've been hearing a lot about GEO.
Yeah, it's SEO, just with a different mask, basically.
Tell me what's different. What's changed for people in terms of like, so define it first of all for everybody. What is GEO?
So it's generative engine optimization, which basically means that how the LLMs and the AI tools are finding information about a given topic. So people are saying, well, your content has to now reflect those new eyes that are looking at things from a different perspective. But it's just another angle of SEO. And if you're just creating content for LLMs, you're missing out on all of the humans that are still looking at your content. There's still billions of people using the internet every day, right? So I know a lot of people like in WhatsApp groups that I'm in and LinkedIn that I follow that are just calling out every single post about GEO because it's just SEO with like a fresh new title to it. Well, what I will say is that you can't ignore this other angle. You have to include it. You have to include this whole outlook of GEO in addition to your SEO efforts. You can't replace SEO, but you have to think about, like what I was saying before, where AI is taking its information from. I was at a conference recently that specifically spoke a ton about GEO, and they were basically giving this whole breakdown of where AI learns from and how it gets its information. And major Fiverr, which is a massive company, tech company in Israel, which is, if in case anyone doesn't know, is basically started as $5 to do simple tasks like, writing a post or creating a logo or things like that. Now has like a whole marketplace of offerings. They realized that in their help center about certain topics, those articles were getting sourced by AI, and that's why they were getting a ton of traffic to their website. So now a lot of companies are starting to build up their help centers and build up these kind of encyclopedias of content about what they do and about their product, which 2 years ago would have just been robust SEO. But now it's this added layer of GEO because they know that the LLMs are looking at those. They're looking at Reddit. They're looking at Quora. They're looking at YouTube. And so it's just kind of like giving it another lane.
Talk to me about Reddit. I've been on Reddit for a long time, long time lurker, and I'm a member of lots of subreddits. I post occasionally. I think I have like 800 karma, so virtually no karma, but not none. So I'm like I would say I'm not a noob, but also not experienced as a Reddit user. How could somebody like me use Reddit for improving their content marketing strategy?
Reddit is a terrifying place. I'm going to be honest. I love it. I use it every day, all day. I have 1.5 million hobbies. So I'm in a ton of different subreddits and I'm on there all the time. And I think that personal use of it has really helped me feel comfortable with using it for work or for my AI learning and things like that. So I've joined subreddits for specific tools like Base 44 and Lovable, which are AI web development tools that are built for the masses, just to kind of hear what people's gripes are and what issues they have. Because I'm not a power user of anything, but the people in subreddits are the cream of the crop of people who use or talk about a specific thing. So I've learned a lot about it's really helped in my learning, I would say, for sure. Using it for business is something that is very difficult because, in case anyone doesn't know enough about Reddit, it is the most
hostile.
Yeah, that's a great word. I was going to say cutthroat, but yeah, hostile is great. Like they will see through your BS in a second. Yeah. And so finding a way around that and to navigate to actually promote your product is very difficult. And a lot of people fail. And then once you fail on Reddit, that's it. There's no coming back from that. So I think I love it as a tool for personal use. I think it's an amazing tool for learning and growth and for understanding things that, maybe for me as a marketer, I'm not a coder, but I've learned a lot about coding and web development and machine learning and all this kind of stuff from just my time learning about AI. And it's a great resource for any of these very specific topics that you want to learn about. And I think if you can succeed there with your business, then you're going to just be miles ahead of everybody else in this new kind of AI, GEO, LLM looking at Reddit world that we're in.
It seems to me I get the same vibe from Reddit that I got from Stack Overflow back when Stack Overflow was actually a successful company.
Yeah,
of course now 95% of their users are gone, because like I've tried to post on Reddit, and half the time the post gets immediately taken down because you broke some obscure rule, and about half the time of the remaining times you get pilloried because you didn't use the right word or you didn't include the right details or whatever, and maybe 5% of the time you actually get some legit answers to the posts that you make. Stack Overflow is the same way, right? You post and it immediately gets marked as a duplicate of a question that was closed 8 years ago, and like it's I don't know, it seems to me like the culture on Reddit is so sort of toxic
Yeah.
that it's incredibly hard to be out there. And I wonder if they're going to go the same way Stack Overflow did.
I'm not sure that it will, if because of how specialized it is, if you're one of those people who's a power user or a super nerd about a given topic or things like that, then you feel like you belong there and you're the one who's gatekeeping, or you kind of feel like among your people there. I think the shift that's going to happen is the community aspect that people are looking for on Reddit, which is why Reddit is so popular, because it's just about one specific topic, is going to be what people focus on, like using things more like Discord or building up bigger communities online or offline, even that people have, to get more of that human connection. Because it's not just about information, it's about connecting with people who are interested in a certain thing that you're interested in, or learning from them if you're new to it. And I think, excuse me, Discord and other sort of community like WhatsApp groups or offline communities like in events and things like that, that's what people are looking for now, that human connection with people who are interested in the same specific space. I use Discord for a bunch of different things, and I feel like it's what I wish Reddit was, but it's almost a little like too closed, because you have to just join a server and then you're in it and that's it. But I mean, I don't think Reddit's going to change. That's just the way it is. Thankfully, it's not as toxic as Twitter is sometimes, but it's kind of different toxic.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see. It's weirding me out that you're talking about Discord and WhatsApp, because to me those apps seem like just refuse in terms of like content. Because the only exposure I have to WhatsApp is texts from people that live overseas, and spam, like Bitcoin spam, and all these these obviously fishy this content that I get. And I
Yeah.
think that's common to a lot of folks, but to me, and Discord is for gamers, and that's basically all that it is. So I think there must be more there that I'm seeing, but largely this stuff is undiscoverable unless you go and look for it.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, the WhatsApp thing is very, I mean, you're not wrong in how you feel, because it's an American thing, because I live in Israel. Everyone uses WhatsApp literally all day long.
Which
Like,
is weird,
yeah,
because it's
no, it's
completely
just,
not user friendly. It's the
uh,
worst.
I'm so used to it now. Like, I can't imagine any other way. And so I'm in a bunch of groups that I actually joined when I was unemployed last year, for finding jobs, and also just kind of meeting or interacting with other people like me who are marketers or content people and things like that. They've been super helpful, super, super helpful. Amazing community of people who, actually Rebecca, who introduced us, is added me to a bunch of groups, and she's in a bunch of them that I was already in, and like just people that I never really would have interacted with. Um, I'm now learning lessons from and setting meetings with, and kind of building this community. And yeah, so that's been really great. And Discord, it's true. Yes, I know what you're saying about gamers. I think that's kind of where it started. But I joined the Base 44 Discord. Sorry, getting over a cold.
That's fine. The AI will take them all out. It's fine.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
I joined the Base 44 group. Actually, even before that, my first real dip into Discord was with Midjourney, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, even, when that was really the only way to create really good AI imagery. So I
Which
had
blew
to,
my mind. Like,
yeah,
if you're Midjourney, why in the world would you choose Discord to be your user interface? Like, it makes no sense. I never understood that.
probably because it was like free, in a sense that they could just kind of build it up there, and not have to worry about hosting some sort of big platform. Because so much, like, that's the thing, so much of using Midjourney and other AI tools is really social. Like, Even though I'm not using Midjourney anymore, I still am in the Midjourney subreddit because I like learning from the way other people create images and videos. So the people who are still using it or who are using it in conjunction with other things like VO and stuff like that, um, or Nano Banana. So I just, yeah, like I built up my use of Discord and understanding of AI image creation in Midjourney, and then took all of what I learned and what I enjoyed from it, and I'm now kind of pulling from that on Reddit.
Mm.
Um, which is going back to what I was saying about this community aspect. Like, I am just learning from all these people who have been doing this nonstop for 2 years,
Mm.
which has been very helpful.
It's interesting because one of the things I think that characterizes things like WhatsApp and Discord is that they're not discoverable. And you never get a Discord link or a WhatsApp group when you search on Google. You just don't. And so I think that makes them sort of less, that reduces their attraction for people that are writing commercial content, trying to advertise, I suppose. Reddit does come up on Google, and so that's, I think, growing interest in trying to use Reddit commercially. Maybe there's like a spectrum there, because I would say WhatsApp and Discord are more authentic, but also much more closed. And I wonder if there's an inverse relationship between openness and authenticity. What do you think?
I think these, I think they started with that in mind, and that was probably something they looked at as a positive. That Reddit, you could have a specific, let's say, the base 44 subreddit. It's unique to people who use it and who are interested in it, but it's open to the public, right? Anybody could just join if they want. Obviously, you could just join the base 44 Discord as well, but it feels like you're joining a community where you're expected to interact and you're expected to you have to do certain things before you're allowed to post or answer questions. So it feels like people who are focusing more on Discord are probably trying to maintain that exclusivity or that closed knit community aspect to it, which
Mm.
is why they're probably fine with it not being as discoverable. And which is why you find the best answers there. I mean, think about it. Anybody that you go to for advice or for help with a given topic, you want the people who are in the know, right? And those people are not just finding an answer on Google and sending it over to you. They're the people who are, mods for subreddits or who are in these Discord channels. Like, for me, I spent a few weeks building stuff on Base 44 and Lovable, and so I built a bunch of stuff there. And then I wanted to build a website for myself and for my AI offerings and my kind of side business that I have. And I ended up not using those tools because what I learned from those communities is basically I understood the concepts of what didn't work there, and I just wanted to find something that would work simply and quickly and free. And
Mm.
ended up building it with Google AI Studio in just a few hours using Claude and ChatGPT at the same time. And that ability to say, like, I know enough to not use a tool because I've like done so much research and been in those communities in the Discord and subreddit and stuff like that, like that was very valuable to be able to tell people now, like, here's what I did not using these things.
Hmm. Yeah, it's still a black box to me. And I wonder so the best, like, for example, ChatGPT, wildly popular, amazing product, 200 million users, if not more. Uh, no content marketing at all, really. And like, it seems to me that the more content marketing you do, the less useful your product is, because you have to do it. If a truly useful product doesn't need it, is that a? So I realize I'm speaking to a content marketer.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Did I just demean your entire profession?
No. I mean, I think like any good content marketer, the answer is it depends. Because for people who are outside of marketing or people who are just end users, all you see is the final result, right? Like, you see a Coca-Cola commercial, but you don't think about all of the work that they've done for over 100 years to get to where you see a bottle that's a certain shape and you just know it's a Coke bottle, right? So, which is where content and marketing kind of blends into brand. And everyone has heard of the term brand awareness, but people don't think about the other sides of branding. Like, brand awareness is, of course, everyone in the world is aware of Coke and Nike and Apple and things like that. But why do you choose Coke over Pepsi if you don't know the taste difference, right? Like, why would you choose Adidas versus Nike? They both make excellent shoes or clothes or products or whatever. So, but understanding like why a certain thing resonates with you more, that is where content comes into play. You know, like when you think of running shoes, you think of Nike because their commercials are built around running. And then, you know, we're not talking about the like people who are like, no, I wouldn't even look at Nike for running shoes because I want Asics or Brooks or like the top level, you know, Nike running shoes. But if you're a general person who wants to start jogging, you don't know what to do, you'll probably buy Nike shoes because their commercials are built around that. Whereas Adidas is not really built like that. So that kind of that is content. That's like a content and branding direction, where Nike is not telling you about Nike. They're telling you that Nike is your number one source for running shoes, right? So that's where content comes into play. And that's where you really need to kind of put your stamp on what you're doing and what your product is capable of. You know, look what you were saying about ChatGPT. Like everyone's heard about it and it blew up and it's great. But, and I haven't given up on it, but there are other LLMs that I use for different things, right? Like I don't create images in ChatGPT. I use Gemini because it has Nano Banana. And when I saw what they put out for their latest release, I was like, why would I use anything else? And that's content and that's advertising and marketing and things like that. Same thing could be said about Claude, and Claude doesn't really do any marketing. I don't think I've seen a single thing that they've put out on the internet about them, but I just get better results with them. And I basically do marketing for them. You know, like I'm telling people that a lot of my workflows that I built to automate a lot of my processes were either built using Claude or use Claude as like the brains within the automation. So I think it's about, how do I put this? Directing the conversation, you know? ChatGPT either subtly or not really so much marketing wise basically put itself out there as the number one LLM for people to use, right? Now all these experts are saying as ChatGPT is dead, I've moved over to Claude. Whatever. Everyone loves sensationalizing things like that. But you know, if you talk to like your uncle or someone who's not in tech, they only know about ChatGPT, which is a certain form of marketing or content or branding, something like that.
Yeah. So those are for big companies, like Coke's a huge company, you know, like Oracle, Microsoft, even the old school ones. You know, Anthropic is huge. OpenAI is in the news for sure. For smaller companies, so my company, Zerv, you know, we're a development platform. We do agentic coding for in the data space, and it's, you know, it's an amazing platform. It does amazing things. But would a company of 30 people that is a startup market in the same way as like an OpenAI or a Coke? Like, what are the differences between a huge company and a small company in terms of the way they should be thinking about content?
It's a good question. I think the number one answer to that is not even thinking about content right away. It's about understanding who you are as a company and what your message is and what you're trying to get people to understand. Because you're not competing with the big companies, right? You're competing with the companies that are your size or your main competition, right? Like you could say that giant companies are your competition because that's your plan and that's your, you know, focus and that's where we want to be in 5 to 10 years or even less. But they're not the people you're trying to pass. You know, like think about it in a race right now. If you're like 16th in a race, you're not looking at number 1, you're looking at 15, right? So, how do you accomplish that with content marketing? You do it by being authentic in the sense of who you are, what you're offering, who you're talking to, and how you're conveying that message and making sure that it's universally conveyed across every sort of content or branding or advertising that you're doing. and that, and finding kind of your niche, right? Because when Coke and Apple and Nike and Oracle and Microsoft started, how much competition did each of them have? A couple companies, maybe at most. But now I'm sure Zerv has a lot of competition. You know, it's a space that, it's just like the way the world and the tech world or community works is that there's just companies popping up all the time. So who are you in that space? What are you offering that's different? Why would someone choose you versus a competitor? Why would people even search for something to find you to help them with a solution that they need? And I think that comes from an understanding. And a lot of times, like C-level and CEOs specifically don't really understand that. They just say, "This is who we are. Why are we not here?" Right? And you're saying, "Well, we're not going to get there without understanding like why we belong here first, right? And why we differentiate from the people that are just above us or directly adjacent to us in terms of the competition." And so when you kind of carve out your space and understand who you are and convey that to people, it gives kind of an authentic and meaningful message to people. And then you just do it across the board in a very uniform and interesting way. And that's how like your message will get out to them.
Yeah, no, as a founder, I love the idea of authenticity, and I hate the idea of playing games in order to like SEO makes me angry, irrationally angry. I know it. So it's good to hear you say that for sure. All
Yeah,
right,
I think, yeah,
go
makes
ahead. Go
sense.
ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I wouldn't consider myself a real content person if I didn't say authenticity and that human aspect and the messaging and things like that.
You'd be surprised how many content people don't say authenticity.
Yeah, I try to differentiate.
Nice, nice. So you're authentic. I appreciate that. All right, let's do a forecast. What do you think in the next 5 years? How are improving large language models and improving AI going to impact the way that the marketing world works, the way that we do our jobs?
I think it's going to continue to improve our processes and make work a lot more efficient. I think, not to sound all doom and gloom, but I think it's going to weed out the people who are against change. I think, whether you like it or not, this is the way the world is not even headed. It's where we are now. And I think if you're not adopting and learning and trying to understand what tools are available to you, you're just gonna be overwhelmed and left behind and not really know what's working. Um, and I think it's going to just drastically shift the way people look at authenticity and content and branding and advertising. And I mean, how many times a day do you see pictures and you're just like, is that
Is that
real?
AI?
Yeah. And, showing a real human side and real human connection and real interaction with people is going to be what really keeps winning. But I think if you're doing that without embracing the tools to make your life faster and more efficient and to learn more things about your competition that you weren't doing beforehand, or figuring out solutions that you didn't have time for, then you're just going to fall by the wayside, I think.
Lovely. Well, Adam, it has
Sorry.
been such a good time to chat with you and learn a bit more. Marketing is voodoo to me, and I feel like I've learned a good bit from you. So thanks for coming on, and thanks for talking to us about
Yeah, thanks for
the
having me. This
landscape.
was great. I
Yeah, it's really
appreciate it.
fun. All right, well, best of luck to you. We look forward to seeing the good things from you in the future. Anything you want to promote? Any socials you want to send people to? Anything interesting?
Um, Wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm starting a new brand called First Man Marketing. You can go to firstmanmarketing.com. It's where I basically offer AI workshops and AI workflow building for anyone who wants to learn about AI or make their job more efficient. That's what I'm trying to do, to just spread the gospel of AI, basically. And yeah, that's it, basically.
Sounds good. Well, thanks again for coming on. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Take care.